Tarps Off Sports.
Bang, we are back here for episode number 6 already of the Tarps Off MMA UK podcast. I probably just jumbled up those words there, but whatever. We're excited. We had UFC Vegas 29 the other night, and we also have some Paddy Pimblett news coming in. I saw on Twitter that he's talking about maybe fighting in early September, so we'll get into all of that, but let's start right at the main event here. We had Dan 50K Ige versus the Korean Zombie. It was an absolute war, but a pretty one-sided war.
Yeah, it was. Well, you say one-sided. I gave Korean Zombie the first 3 rounds, and then maybe Ige the second, the fourth and fifth. But I mean, the judges I think, unanimously gave Ige the first. So, it was a bit mixed. But I mean, yeah, Korean Zombie looked great, like best he has in a while. And he's starting to go away from that Korean Zombie moniker, living up to the nickname. He's now fighting like a smart fighter, and using those skills that he's accumulated over the years. And he got his jiu-jitsu black belt
I saw that.
Event. Yeah, how does that man not have a black belt already? Jesus.
Well, now he's going to find himself probably one fight away from maybe even a title shot. I think he does have to fight at least one more time. And Dan Ige, his stock didn't go down either. I mean, he went 5 rounds with the Korean Zombie, and like you said, it was a little closer than maybe I'm giving it credit for, but Dan Ige looked good. You still can see that he is improving as a fighter, and he's improving every single fight. I almost would like to see maybe Calvin Kattar and Dan Ige run it back. I know that fight wasn't that long ago, but I've got a fight. Oh, you got the fight?
You carry on. You carry on first. And
I think Dan Ige is just a different fighter. I think we see a lot closer of a fight if they were to go again, but I'm excited to hear you got Dan Ige fighting next.
I'm a UK guy. Arnold Allen, I think he's 7th ranked featherweight right now, coming off a win over Sadiq Youssef. He is like the dark horse of that division right now. And he's looking for someone to start breaking, to break him into that top 5. And I think Dan Ige, because Allen's such like a dark horse, no one really rates him that highly for some reason. He's such a well-rounded fighter, but no one really rates him that highly. I think Dan Ige would look at that fight, be like, okay, I can get a win here, start building myself back up. But, Allen...
yeah, it would be a tough fight.
He's real good. Like
that's a high-level fight. I don't know who would win that. That's exciting.
No, solid co-main event.
Yeah, I would love to see that fight. The Korean Zombie. Who do you have next for the Korean Zombie on his way to a title shot?
I really liked what Ariel Helwani posted, because obviously Holloway has fallen out of his fight with Yair Rodriguez that was initially targeted for July 18th, around that time. So Helwani said, keep Yair on that card. Let Giga Chikadze, one of my boys, let him step in to that fight because he's fully fit. He fought Cub Swanson, KO'd him via body kick in 40 seconds or something. Let those 2 fight then, and then book Korean Zombie versus Max Holloway.
Wow, that would definitely be a fan favorite. Obviously, both fighters have very good fan bases. That would be a fun fight to watch. Max Holloway's going in there looking to trade. The Korean Zombie's never been shy about looking to trade. That would be a fun striking match. I don't think we'd see much grappling in that one. So some of the more casual fight fans will absolutely love that one. But we had another big fight on the card. It wasn't in the co-main event, but it was almost the de facto, the people's co-main event, which was Matt Brown. He still got it. Another big finish. I mean, who would have thought he would still be knocking people out at age 40?
100%. And the fact that it was against Diego Lima, that's his first name, isn't it? Diego Lima, who, he just went 3 rounds with Bilal Muhammad, who's a top-ranked welterweight. He's no slouch, and Matt Brown put him out. He left him unconscious on the mat, and of course that leaves us with the question: who does he fight next? And Jack, there's only one answer. Surely there's only one answer.
There's one answer that really excites people, and honestly, Nick Diaz is coming back. He's looking for a fight. That's what me and Mancuso said right after the fight was over. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It would be a good first fight back for Nick Diaz, and definitely one the fans would love to see.
100%. He did also call out Cowboy Cerrone. I think they fought previously, so he said he'd like to get that one back, as well as Robbie Lawler. So they're all fights I wouldn't mind watching. But yeah, Nick Diaz. That. If that can be made, that is the one to make, I think, because they're both definitely in the twilight of their career.
For
And
sure.
and they're just like they've been around forever. Everyone knows both of them, and who doesn't want to watch Matt Brown fight Nick Diaz?
Yeah, that would be an absolute historic fight. And I mean, Cowboy's a big fight too. Obviously, I think he's got one more fight left. I don't see Cowboy's career going much longer. So Matt Brown would be a great guy. Two legends of the sport would be going out and trading the leather. So, I mean, you got to give a big name to all of those guys. So I like to see them find a good way to square them off against each other. Although I think Robbie Lawler might have a little bit longer left in the tank than the rest of those guys. But I mean, he's on the back half of his
He's
career
on a
for sure.
4-fight losing streak, so
he is on a yeah. It could end in the UFC if he picks up another loss, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, if you pair off Nick Diaz versus Brown and Cerrone versus Lawler, I think that would be a great way to handle that little cluster of guys right there. And then we had some controversy, in my opinion, in a fight on the card involving a UK fighter here, Davy Grant. Now, I got to ask you, Frank, who did you give that first round to?
I gave it to Grant.
It was Grant by a mile, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, one judge had it 30-26. How the hell do you not give that first round to Grant? I understand the second round was close. I actually gave the second round to Grant, but I completely understand if you went the other way in the second round. And then the third round was a 10-8.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, with these UK fighters, I know I always have a little bit of bias. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I failed to see how Grant didn't get that first round. He just had so much more volume and activity. And he's such a fun fighter to watch, isn't he? But yeah, I don't understand how he didn't get it. Second round was tight. It was one of those where I was like, I hope Grant's got it, but I don't know if he does. And then yeah, third round, Cheeto came real close to finishing it a couple of times. But what a warrior Grant is! Like really, like there was several times when I thought he was gone, and he was literally looking like a corpse on the bottom of Cheeto, and then he would just suddenly burst through and start initiating escapes again. So incredible fight. If we weren't coming off the back of UFC 263 where we had Riddell and Dober, I'd be like fight of the year contender, another one. But it's a little bit in the shadow of that fight, but still incredible performance by both. And fair play to Cheeto, to be honest. Because
I couldn't believe how Davy Grant kept getting put into bad spots where it looked like he was going to get choked out. It looked like it was all over. And then he just found a way to slip out. And then he would get back to the feet and he would just start throwing again. At one point, it looked like he was out on his feet, but he was still landing dangerous strikes, staying in the fight. I mean, hats off to both guys. It takes two to have a fight that's that high quality and that exciting. But hats off to both guys in that one. They went out and they did their job and they earned their money.
Did you see when Grant connected with a clean spinning wheel kick straight on Cheeto's jaw, and Cheeto just wore it like nothing? Like that man's got an iron chin. It's something that's not really appreciated about Cheeto Vera enough. Jesus, he took some real hard punishment. I think Grant landed his hardest shots on Cheeto, and Cheeto just took them. So he could be a problem in that division.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he looked pretty good. That's a tough war right there between two fighters that are very both veterans in the sport. I worry for Grant. I mean, I think that he couldn't afford a loss if he wanted to ever be the champion, but his career will still turn out to be an unbelievable career, a respected career, a true veteran. But I would say the title hopes are put to bed probably here.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we have another prospect on the card, Casey O'Neill. I know there was some controversy in that fight just of the way she got up from the submission. I know I saw people on the internet complaining that she wasn't the most respectful after the rear naked choke. But I mean, you're in a cage, you're fighting another human. It's an unreal moment. I'm sure she didn't mean to shove her off, and I'm sure there's a lot of respect between those two fighters. But she's now undefeated. I believe 7-0 is what she proved to.
Yep.
And she's had 2 fights in the UFC now. What's next for her?
Oh, what's next for her? I don't know. I'm trying to think, because a win over Laura Procopio, that's a big dub on your name already. Like, Procopio last time went out and beat Molly McCann, who's another UK fighter who I'm a big fan of, and absolutely dominated Molly. The fact that Casey O'Neill went out there, submitted her, put her unconscious, and like you said, some people were a bit iffy with her disrespect, but she does not care. Did you hear in the post-fight conference? She said, "I enjoyed putting her to sleep. I was happy to put her to sleep." Like, that girl is a killer. I kind of hope they don't force her into the rankings too quickly, just because she is still inexperienced. 7-0. It's not a huge record, and only 2 fights in the UFC. I'm trying to think of a matchup that would fit her right now, and nothing's really coming to me. But
I don't really have a matchup either, but I have a card. So behind you right there, you got a poster that says Whitaker versus Adesanya.
Yeah.
It looks, all things lead to them having a rematch. Wouldn't that be a great card to showcase her on to some fans that don't know her? 7-0, rising prospect. You put her with those two. I mean, they're famous in that area of the world, in Australia, New Zealand. Put her right on that card with them.
Yeah, 100% actually, because while she represents Scotland, she lives in Australia, doesn't she? So she's got that a weird combination of Australian and Scottish twang to her voice. But yeah, that's a great shout. Stick her on like a featured prelim, or like featured early prelim card against a fellow either a fellow up and coming prospect or a sort of steady veteran who's been in that division for a while, a sort of name, and then after that, then like let her start to break into the rankings, because she's a problem. She is really legit. And yeah, I see a bright future for Casey O'Neill.
And then also on the card, we had something that absolutely shocked me. So I thought Erosa was gonna win his fight. I knew it was going to be a difficult fight, but I thought Erosa was going to be able to come away with the victory. He lost to Choi, and it was pretty. You saw it coming. I remember me and Mancuso were watching it live, and I was like, I think Erosa's in trouble here. And by the time I finished that sentence, the fight was over.
Yeah, Sungwoo Choi, he is a problem, and I've said that already today, but he's legit. And to be fair, I've had my eye on him a little bit for a while. I mean, he came into the UFC. I think his first 2 fights, he lost his first 2 fights, but he fought Movsar Evloev and Gavin Tucker. Those are like 2 like really legitimate featherweight fighters, and it's a murderer's road to come in and fight those two guys first. But then he went on, he fought Yusuf Zalal, who I was really big on last year. He went on like a 4-fight winning streak and looked incredible. And Sungwoo Choi just came through and just stopped that. So after that fight, I was like, okay, let's keep an eye on this guy. But yeah, I did not see him. There was no way I predicted him coming out there and flatlining Juicy J in that way. Because Erosa, he's known for his durability. He can get like wobbled and stuff. He quite often loses the first round, and essentially lets his opponent beat him up and gas themselves out, hitting him, and then he'll come out and knock them out in the second or the third. That's, in a weird way, that's his style. But yeah, Choi, he is a legitimate prospect now, and I wouldn't be surprised seeing him break into the rankings soon. But as for Julian Erosa, me and you have spoken about this before, but Paddy Pimblett versus Julian Erosa, that would be like a dream introduction to the UFC for the Scouser.
Oh, absolutely. And that's I had some bias almost rooting for Erosa in this, because I thought that fight looked just a lot more sexy if Erosa was coming off of a win. But I still think the fight makes sense. The fans want to see it. They had that controversial fight back in Cage Warriors that people want to see run back. I mean, we've talked about it. over like who won that fight. I actually thought they made the correct decision giving it to Paddy. But what was your thoughts on their first fight?
The first fight, I think I gave it to Arosa, to be honest. Like, I was not complaining when Paddy won it, but when I'm watching it live, I was like expecting Arosa's hand to be raised at the end of it. I didn't complain when it was Paddy's hand, but I definitely lent to Arosa when watching it live. I haven't rewatched it fully for a while, so I have to do that soon. But the issue is now, so that is the fight that I really wanted to be Pimblett's introduction to UFC, and I'm sure you did as well. Is Arosa, because we alluded to earlier, Paddy said he might be coming back in September. That's UFC are aiming for UFC London in September 5th, I believe, is the intended target right now. So Arosa has just been knocked out. How long is he going to have to be out now?
That is true.
That's the issue. I've got 3 people. I've gone through the UFC's just roster, their featherweight roster. 3 people who I suggest as potential first fights for Paddy Pimblett. Let me know what you think. So number 1, this is a bit of a strange one, but I don't know. I kind of see it. Okay, Chase Hooper.
Oh boy, that's a big name right off the hop. Obviously, he's got a big fan base. Would be a very easy fight to market. I don't know if you do that to those 2 fighters, because we always forget how young Hooper is, because he's already in the UFC. How old is he? He's like 21.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, like that's tough. I mean, Paddy is a vet compared to Hooper, and both of them are young fighters. But I don't know if I would do that to the 2 of them. I think that's more of a down the road match that'll sell a lot of tickets and sell a lot of seats.
That's fair enough. All right, number 2, Billy Quarantillo. Billy Q. He's a veteran, established name. He's been around the block enough, and he's put on some really exciting fights. So he is coming off a loss now. I think that's a potential fight that could be a really interesting introduction. It's a tough introduction to the UFC for Pimblett, but it's a good fight.
It would almost remind me of the time Sage Norcutt took on Barberena. Wasn't that the fight? It's like the vet versus the prospect almost, which Paddy's not really a prospect, but for all intents and purposes, the less well situated fighter in the UFC. And sometimes the better fighter loses those fights because you can just win those on experience, which would scare me for Paddy, but it would be a surefire test and a good fight.
It would be a good fight. The last one,
think Paddy wins that though.
Yeah, I lean to Paddy. The last one is the one I think is maybe the most unlikely to be made, but just looking at it, it's such a fun fight. Paddy Pimblett versus Andre Feely.
Oh, Andre Touchy-Feely.
Yeah.
That might be the toughest name you've mentioned, but boy, it's mouthwatering.
What a fight that would be, though, because he is a name, but he's always failed to sort of just pass that, upper echelon, pass into the upper echelon of the featherweight division. But he's a name. He's been around forever. He trains in Team Alpha Male, I believe, with like Uriah Faber and them guys. Super legit fighter. And that throws, if Pimblett beats Andre Feely, that throws him right into.
Oh yeah, then he's on fire. Also, that's a fight that you probably book for the main card, for that UFC London
main card opener, something like that.
Yeah, either the main card opener or right in the middle. It's probably not a main event or a co-main event, but it's a good fight. That doesn't get buried on the prelims for sure.
Well, yeah, maybe feature prelim, but yeah, I would love that.
Maybe feature prelim. Good point.
That's just fireworks.
Absolutely. I'm excited for what we got going on. I can't wait for more information to come out about this UFC London card. We'll obviously be monitoring that closely, monitoring Paddy Pimblett. We're going to freak out once we finally do find out who his opponent's going to be. Eagerly waiting that. We got Lockney running the PFL right now. I think he could be the champion. It's exciting times for the UK.
It truly is. Yeah, Brandon over there in PFL is looking incredible so far. And speaking of exciting times for the UK, Cage Warriors trilogy is coming up this week. I believe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and some really stacked cards over there. One that stands out to me the most: Ian Gary versus Jack Grant. People are not high on. Well, people in the UK know Ian Gary. People in America will know Ian Gary. The man's nickname is the Future, and honestly, he has the sort of personality, the charisma, and the fighting style that could easily make him. As much as I hate to say it, they could make him the new Conor McGregor. And we've only just finished saying that about Paddy Pimblett,
I
but
know.
honestly, Ian Gary, we'll see how he does because Jack Grant is super legit. I don't want to discredit him at all. He could easily submit Ian Gary, but Ian Gary undefeated. His last fight finished via brutal KO, and it's a good one. It's a good one. It's a fight for the welterweight title over at Cage Warriors. That is the Saturday fight, I believe.
Why is it that these UK fighters are always so much better on the mic? You got Michael Bisping, you got Paddy Pimblett, Conor McGregor, now Ian Gary. They all come from Cage Warriors. They're all so good on the mic. It's unbelievable.
Iron sharpens iron. They're all they're all in this small little circuit together, and only the strongest survive.
I love the Cage Warriors events. I mean, I actually found them probably earlier than most of the American audience found them because I was watching Conor McGregor. I've been watching Paddy Pimblett. The hype for them was unreal. So they actually brought me over to Cage Warriors, and I stayed there even after McGregor left. And now that Paddy's gone, I love those events. There's always new, young, up-and-coming fighters. You're going to probably be seeing a UFC champion on one of those cards someday. Like, one of these guys on this card could go on to be a UFC champion, so you just don't want to miss it. It's so awesome.
100%, yeah. Right now I'm writing up a piece for Tarps Off of the top 5 fights to watch. So, that'll be dropping probably tomorrow. So go check that out. But yeah, there is a bunch of, incredible fights. I think one title fight per card. So you've got Matthias Frederick defending his middleweight belt against Matthew Bonner, and then you've also got Sadari defending his belt against Joe McColgan, the SBG hunter, for the lightweight belt. So yeah, 3 title fights, as well as a bunch of prospect fighters on there. Ben Lakhtar versus Paul Redmond. We've discussed that fight previously. Yeah. That's another banger. Sam Creasy is on there. Will Curry. There are some really good fights on there. So I would 100%. If you're an MMA fan and you want to see the sort of next generation of fighters out of Europe, go watch Cage Warriors trilogy this coming week. And I'm sure me and Jack, I think we're going to do at least one live watch party.
Oh yeah,
for one of them. So come join us on there. But yeah, really looking forward to those.
Absolutely. And do you have anything else to add, or?
Not really. Next week we've got Jai Herbert. He's a Cage Warriors alumni, former lightweight champion. He's competing in the UFC against Renato Moicano, so that's a fight I would 100% recommend you checking out. But apart from that, I think that's it for the time being.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll have some more information, maybe some fights getting announced soon for this September card that's supposed to take place in London. Obviously, we'll keep you up to date on that. But that's going to do it for us. And thank you guys for watching again.